Allow me to illustrate this point with something I noticed earlier today, and I just checked a moment ago, and I see that the headline has been altered. This morning, I don't usually do this, but this morning I looked at the New York Times specifically to see how they reported the hostage rescue operation yesterday by Israeli.
Oh, we killed all those Palestinians.
And do you know how it was reported? The headline in the New York Times.
Wait. I haven't seen it. But my guess is they reported the number of Fakistinians that were killed in this raid to rescue the hostages. Is that true? I don't know.
Yes, it stressed that. Of course it did. But it also it termed the operation as an Israeli assault.
Wow.
An Israeli assault. I kid you not.
Not a rescue mission.
No, absolutely not. The words rescue or mission or operation did not appear. It was an Israeli assault, and something like, it says something 200 Fakistinians were killed or something, which I don't know if that figure is true or not. But let's assume for a moment it might be true. That's simply because all kinds of armed, uninvolved, and unaffiliated Fakistinians who just happened to have Kalashnikov rifles and RPGs appeared out of the woodwork and began attacking the commando force. So they fought back.
I saw a video on a Telegram channel, which, I watch all kinds of crazy stuff. And this video was out of the camp where the raid took place, the rescue mission.
Nuseirat.
Yeah, Nuseirat. And there were scores of civilians with RPGs and Kalashnikovs and all manner of weapons digging through the rubble to kind of rescue their fellow travelers in the rubble of the buildings that were destroyed. And I thought to myself, this is a perfect example of what we're up against. These are civilians, right? With Kalashnikovs and RPGs and all kinds of military equipment right there. I mean, I hardly saw anybody that didn't have some kind of weapon. But these are innocent civilians, right? Yeah. Okay. Well,
the woman who was rescued, Noah Argamani by name, the 25-year-old Israeli woman who was held in captivity for the past 8 months. Where was she being held? In a so-called
Al Jazeera
unaffiliated, non-Hamas, as it were, home, the home of a Al Jazeera cameraman or reporter who tried to attack the commando force when they entered the apartment.
Well, that's what happened,
and therefore he was killed, of course.
Yeah, that's what happens.
This is part of the terrible racist, colonialist Israeli assault.
Right. This is what happens when you bring a knife to a gunfight. I mean, just terrible things happen to you. I'm sorry that just like Entebbe, we lost a valiant commander. We lost
a very, very brave man.
Extremely brave, and cut in the same mold as Yoni Netanyahu.
Yes.
And it shows that if you let the army fight and win.
If you let them fight, they will win. If you let them fight, they will win.
We can get our hostages back. And if Sinwar is finally cornered with 20 or 30 live hostages with bombs around their necks, it's very simple at that point. We'll let them go. You can go. You and your whole family, stinking family, and all of your commanders, all of you can go. Just let us have our hostages and you can leave. Of course, you're not going to sleep too well at night. And every time you turn a car on, you may wonder if you're going to get shot through the roof. And when you go to bed at night, you may wonder if you're going to wake up facing the business end of an Israeli assault rifle. But, these are minor details. You can live. We will let you live outside of Gaza. So And people have asked me, and what if he doesn't want to do that? What if he wants to go to the Islamic Valhalla? Okay. We can all go to Valhalla. I mean, and if we lose the hostages, this is war. And I'm sorry, but you know, the old expression, you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. And I'm sorry for this. I really am. I'm sorry.
I too am sorry that I think I'm about to disagree with you. I don't think that we may contemplate allowing someone like Sinwar to escape, no matter what the cost.
If the decision were made, if I were going to make the decision and somebody came in to me and said, we have him located, we know exactly where he is, I'd say push the button. Push the button.
As you said, this is war. And halachically speaking, unfortunately, tragically, it pains any normal person to have to say this. All of those hostages, those poor people who have suffered unspeakable atrocities and in their captivity for so long, they are all what is called in the Talmud gavra ketila, which means essentially the walking dead. In other words, they could be killed at any moment for any reason by any one of those people. And we know already for a fact that many of the hostages have been killed. We know that for a fact. We just don't know exactly how many.
Right.
To allow our arch enemies who brought this second smaller scale Holocaust on us, so that they can plan to do so again. And that's what they will do, and they say, and they expressly say so. We cannot do that. We are not at liberty to do that. Every Jew on planet Earth
would be vulnerable.
Is in a state of war with the Jewish people's enemies, and those enemies are, Baruch Hashem, many, and there's no shortage of such people, certainly not in our neighborhood. And we simply have to prosecute the war as if there are no hostages. If and when it is possible, as was done yesterday, to rescue hostages, yes, we should consider doing that. And even then, we have to consider the possible risks to the soldiers involved, etc. And yesterday things went very well, with the exception of that one extremely courageous commander, whom we all mourn. And yes, it was a shot in the arm for the Jewish people, but it does not mean necessarily that is always the correct decision. The major and only consideration is the total destruction of our enemies and total victory.
I would agree. We cannot allow any of them. Actually, we can't allow any of them, including the ones we have under guard right now as prisoners, to live. We live in a pretty rough neck of the woods. And I think
that's one way of putting it, yes.
One way of putting it. We live amongst a people whose culture revolves around blood and violence. And I think it would really impress a lot of our neighbors. I don't care about the Europeans or the North Americans, but it would certainly impress an awful lot of our proximate neighbors if we simply executed all of the Hamas prisoners that we're currently holding.
They should all be put on trial, and they should all be executed.
5 minutes later, they should be executed. Membership in Hamas should be an automatic result in an automatic death sentence. Period. I think we have to regain our deterrence, our credibility, by whatever means possible. And this is the easiest way of doing it. if you fight us, there are two principles we have to observe. That if you fight us, you will be annihilated. There will be no mercy. And second of all, if you have land, you will lose it. This is why the situation up north in Lebanon, there are two things that we seem to have forgotten. There is no such thing as Lebanon. There just isn't.
There has not been such a state. There has not been such a state for decades.
Decades. There's basically a battleground up there. And so I think we're justified in looking at that battleground as a potential territorial acquisition in the process of destroying Hamas. If you use territory to attack us or threaten us.
I think you meant to say Hezbollah.
Well, what did I say?
Hamas.
Hamas. No, I meant, thank you. I meant Hezbollah. Then you'll lose your army or whatever force you're threatening us with, and you'll lose territory. You'll lose territory. And
there are only two things. There are only two things our enemies' cultural mindset and experience can appreciate, and that is total annihilation and their territory being overtaken by us and settled by us. Only those things can possibly make any impression on them. Correct.
If they actually lose land that has been under the ownership, if you will, of the Ummah, of the Islamic State, the Islamic Caliphate, or the Islamic world, will they finally understand that they need to leave us alone? But, here you have people like Benny Gantz, who on the night of the raid was prepared at 8:30 last night to announce that he was withdrawing from the government. The misnamed war cabinet. Now, I know that the timing was really bad for him, and I kind of feel sorry for him because he couldn't do it last night without looking like what he is, which is a coward and a traitor. A little Herod, as I call him. But he may do it tonight.
He's simply an American asset,
puppet.
An agent. He's an agent of
he is the designated
of the State Department and the CIA.
Right. He's the designated successor of Bibi. That's all. So when he actually makes this statement that he's withdrawing, people, if they have half a brain, have to understand that we've just demonstrated that fighting to win pays off, as opposed to his approach, which is to get on our knees and surrender and say whatever the terms are that the enemy insists upon will be accepted by us, no matter what the consequences of those terms are. Simply put, Benny Gantz played a very large role in the misconception that led up to October 7th. And now he's repeating his errors by basically carrying the American water bucket on the issue of the hostages. There's only one way. If we're going to get the hostages back, we've just demonstrated yesterday the only legitimate, credible way of doing so. For Gantz, he needs knee pads. For us, we just need to let the army win. That's all. So, in terms of the timing, it was very bad timing by Gantz. And I consider it min hashamayim in terms of...
Min hashamayim means, for those who are unfamiliar with the term, from heaven, ordained or organized, arranged by heaven.
Correct.